Still with us, former federal prosecutor Nima Rahmani, and we now have criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor John Hilliard. John, I would love to start with you. In spite of the physical ailments and issues that we know he has, do you think that Bob Durst is mentally stable and astute?
I can't tell the answer to that question without some more information than what we have here. It seems to me that the thing for the judge to do at this point is have him examined by a doctor, see what a professional has to say about it. Because the prosecutor's correct; he doesn't have enough information to know, and he's also correct that they'll do anything that fits to get the case mistried at this point. Of course, they could try the case again. That's not a problem. So I can't tell from what we've seen so far whether he's mentally astute or not. The information that you've got so far from what was said seems to me that he's egocentric, and he certainly enjoys breaking the rules, and he's got this ego that's enormous. That doesn't necessarily mean he's committed a murder. So I see those things, but I'm not sure where that gets anybody.
And you know, the prosecution, when they found out that he could not attend court on Thursday, said, listen, you know, we need another doctor to look at it. And the judge said, in fact, to your point, the jail has good doctors. I have no reason to doubt what they are telling us based on their experience and expertise. But I want to take this opportunity because I love the producers and team here at Court TV. We are going to show you what Bob Durst has looked like physically on a timeline. So I want to start with 1973, and here's a picture you see where Robert and Kathy Durst marry, and he's young and vibrant, as both of them are in their picture. Then we're going to fast forward to 1982, and again, there's a picture with Robert Durst in it when Kathy Durst vanishes. He has a beard, he looks a little different, a little older. That's 10 years later. 2003, Robert stands trial for a murder in Galveston, Texas. You may recall he was living in Galveston as a female under a different name, and the neighbor went missing. Let's fast forward again to 2015 when Robert was arrested for violation of probation. And in my opinion, this is when he starts to look a little bit more like the Robert that we see today. But keep in mind, he looks much younger and vibrant still there. In 2020, there is Robert when he faces trial for the shooting death of Susan Berman. This is the trial that started in 2020. It did not resume until May of 2021, given the pandemic. Here is a picture. I just want to note that difference again between 2020, a year ago when the trial started, now May of 2021. You can see he looks more frail. He is in a wheelchair. And then in June of 2021, the last time he was seen in court. So 1 month later, here you see him in court this week, right before the undisclosed health issue halts trial for the week. I would love, Neiman, to get your opinion on what do you think as you see physically those changes in the defendant? Does that mean anything to you in terms of his physical ability to participate in trial?
Ashley, I agree with you. I'm here in Los Angeles, so I've been able to observe Bob Durst firsthand, and he looks like a completely different person, even from the time that we initially started this trial about 15 months ago. There's no question he's in poor health. He has bladder cancer and a whole host of other ailments. Now, the question is, and I understand John Lewin's perspective as well, is this defense strategy to just try to delay this case because it's been one motion for mistrial or to delay after another? And this judge isn't having it because took incredibly long to pick this jury. The testimony is expected to last 5 months. We're already hearing testimony of witnesses who are deceased that have to proceed through recorded testimony. So if I were the state, I would take this same position that I want to move forward. You know, this is already a very, very cold case 20 years ago. And if you go back to Kathy Durst, we're talking almost 40 years. So they want to move forward. And I don't think they're going to let the defense stop them, especially because of what happened day one of the trial, where Bob Durst refused to come out of the jail. And the following day, the judge actually had to order LA County Sheriff's deputies to go physically remove him from his cell.
And that's exactly the point I wanted to go to. So I'd love to ask John about legalities. And here are the legalities. What if the doctors say, nope, physically he still can't get up, he cannot be in court? Does the court, in your opinion, have the opportunity to say, too bad, defense, you're going forward whether he can get here or not? Or do you think it would be more likely that the court would delay the trial?
Certainly, I've seen situations where, people are brought into court on a stretcher. He's got to be there unless he makes some arrangement to not be there. But the trial would go on if he wasn't there under those circumstances. Whether he could actually come to the hearing or not, they can put him on a stretcher and bring him in there. I certainly see what the comment was about a cold case, but really that doesn't. I understand the prosecution wants to get it done. At the same time, the fact that it's a cold case and it's been a long time so far doesn't really have anything to do with the legality of whether it proceeds in the face of his physical condition. If they could get a doctor to say that he's incapable of participating in his own defense, it seems to me that makes him that creates a situation where they can't make the trial go forward. And whether or not one of the things that struck me about this trial the whole time is they didn't have that much of the trial prior to the COVID. It makes more sense to me to go ahead and start it over than it does to press on for 5 months with the idea that some appeals court could look at it and say, well, the jury certainly has forgotten everything that happened before the trial. So I don't know. I agree with you 100% that his looks and demeanor are deteriorating, and I don't believe that he could fake that. He's without some really good makeup artists from Hollywood, it seems to me that he really is deteriorating quickly.
And I do agree with you that there's just no way to know if he's going to be well or not or be able to come to court. Congratulations, John. I thought I'd heard it all, but even being on the bench as a judge, I've never had anyone come in on a stretcher. So we're going to wait and see. And coming up, as we wait to hear how Robert Durst is doing and why he was hospitalized yesterday, we are going to look back at this week in court. Here is Durst on Wednesday. Who was he fist pumping, and what will next week bring out of this Los Angeles County courtroom? Stay tuned. We'll be right back here on Court TV, your front row seat to justice. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us here on Court TV Live. I'm Judge Ashley Wilcott. We are continuing to follow the breaking news out of the Jinx murder trial, where Robert Durst, charged with killing his friend Susan Berman, has been hospitalized. Jail staff found him down out of his wheelchair, so there was no court yesterday since he couldn't be there. A reminder, they are always dark on Fridays. They're not in court on Fridays. Besides the concerns the prosecution had over whether or not Durst was really too ill to be in court, there was also the question of Robert Durst's friend Douglas Oliver. Oliver testified Wednesday and sparks were flying during direct examination by the state. Oliver is the former son-in-law of a New York real estate magnate, called by the prosecution and designated as a hostile witness because he was extremely reluctant to cooperate with the prosecutor's questions. At one point during a sidebar, as the attorneys argued about Oliver, Durst actually raised a fist towards his old friend in what appeared to be a show of solidarity and encouragement. Take a listen to what happened yesterday morning when the judge asked Oliver about returning to court Monday to continue his testimony.
I understand that you have a vacation. Do you recall the days where you'll be on vacation?
Yes, I'm leaving the 19th to the 27th. But in addition to that, Your Honor,
Yes.
I have a 104-year-old mother who's in the hospital with a broken hip, and I came out here in the middle of this. Mr. Loon was aware of it, and I really need to get back to help her.
Okay.
I've been very fortunate to have 77 years with this woman. I'm not sure how long she's going to last. She assured me that she's going to live through this 2 days.
Good.
I'd like to get back there, okay?
So
This is my concern, and I'm going to lay it out. I'm not going to pull any punches. Mr. Oliver has played games with us from the start. He's been rude. He's been disrespectful. He's repeatedly lied.
That's not addressing the problem.
Let me finish.
That's not addressing.
Mr. DeGuerin,
Mr. DeGuerin.
let me finish. He has made commitments, at least 5 of them, that he makes a commitment, then he just cancels them, then he is rude on the phone when I eventually reach him. This is my concern, because as the court's aware, the man literally said, well, I'm going to go to England and good luck finding me. So
That's not what he said.
that is exactly what he said.
Mr. DeGuerin, I heard it.
Yeah, you'll have to find me. I'll be in England.
All right, the judge and attorneys ended up agreeing to let Oliver see his mother. He will resume his testimony on Wednesday morning of next week if Robert Durst is back. He has to be present for the trial to go forward, so the court will be waiting to see how Robert, the defendant in this case, and his health progress over the weekend. Happy to bring back in with me former federal prosecutor Nima Rahmani and criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor John Hilliard. Let me start with you, Nima. All right, what do you do as a former prosecutor if you have a witness who's declared hostile or adverse, so you can actually ask your own witness leading questions, but they are flat out obvious that they do not want to be there, they do not want to participate, they have another reason why they shouldn't come back to court to testify? What can you do?
Douglas Oliver has been one of the most hostile witnesses I've seen in my decades of practice, and even Judge Wyndham agreed. He put him up there with some of the gang members that he represented. I mean, this is someone who refused to return to court after he was ordered back, and the judge actually had to issue a bench warrant and a body attachment to compel him to return to court. I mean, that being said, I don't know how much he really advances the ball for the state here. I know Deputy District Attorney John Lewin wants to get control over this particular witness, call him in his case in chief, but it was a really sort of interesting examination, or should I say cross-examination, of a hostile witness, where even before he really said anything of substance, Lewin started going after him and impeaching him, which is really sort of unorthodox. But I'm glad he at least now appears to be under control, and hopefully we'll see the fireworks continue next week.
All right, John, let me ask you to play devil's advocate, because the prosecutor Lewin said in this case twice to the judge, he's been rude. I called him and he was rude. Well, there's nothing that says a witness can't be rude, is there?
I'm just I'm surprised at how thin-skinned the prosecutor is. He's this guy's not on his side. He doesn't want to be there, and he's got to be there because there's a subpoena and a bench warrant. So he's got to be there to testify. And really all that's happening is the prosecutors got him there to beat him up. And they want to beat him up before the defense gets to call him. So, and I agree with DeGuerin. The prosecutor's sitting there saying, oh, well, he's rude and he doesn't follow through on commitments. He's got no obligation to commit to the prosecutor. He's got no obligation to speak with the prosecutor. He's got no obligation to connect with the prosecutor in any form or fashion. He can be subpoenaed. He can be made to come to court, and he could be made to answer questions in court under penalty of contempt by the judge. But he's got no obligation to be nice to the prosecutor. So, I get he's hopping up and down. His feelings are hurt, but that was shocking to me to hear all that being in open court.
Well said, John.
I was a prosecutor, and I was a prosecutor for a while, and people have done a lot of things that hurt my feelings, but I never complained in court about it.
Right. Well said. I so agree with you. That's the absolute truth. Let me ask you, if I could, Nima, one last question, and that is in terms of the jury. How far do you go with the jury? Because you don't want to alienate the jury if you're the prosecutor, do you?
Actually, we're way beyond that. I mean, John and Dick have been fighting in front of the jury. There have been allegations of ethical improprieties outside the presence of the jury, but just listening to the objections, there's one speaking objection after another. I really wish the judge would get a little bit better control of this courtroom, because it's really turned out to be nasty, and both sides are really entrenched. Obviously, Lewin has been living with this case for many years now. He flew out to personally interview Bob Durst when he was arrested in 2015, and obviously DeGuerin was part of the team that famously got Durst off for the Morris Black murder. So I understand that these two attorneys have spent a lot of years working on this case, but I wish they would tone it down a notch because it's gotten really nasty.
All right. Nima Rahmani, thank you so much for being with us. John, you're going to stick around round coming up next. We're going to continue to break it down and bring you up to speed on Kentucky versus Christian Martin. Who might the defense plan to call in that case? We'll break it down for you here on Court TV, your front row seat to justice.